Ever scroll through one of those endless privacy policies? The ones that seem to go on forever. Your eyes glaze over and you just hit agree because what else are you going to do? We've all been there. But today, we're tackling one you really shouldn't ignore. We're diving deep into TikTok's privacy policy.
It's true. These policies, they're like secret codes, hidden treasure maps. They can tell you a lot about a company, their values, how they actually treat your data.
That's such a good point. And in this deep dive, we're going to be your guides. We'll break it all down, the good, the bad, and the just plain fascinating. What information does TikTok collect? How do they use it? And what control do you actually have? Because let's be real, what you don't know can actually affect your digital life. So first things first, what kind of information are we even talking about here? I mean, you probably already know TikTok's gathering data on like the videos you watch and create, comments you leave, your profile info, all that.
It's like their way of getting to know you, digitally, I mean.
Yeah.
Your tastes, your preferences, your whole online personality.
Right, but it gets way deeper than that. For example, did you know they have access to your device's clipboard?
Yeah.
Your clipboard, that random text you copied, maybe a funny tweet you wanted to share, or even your home address. Yeah, that could be making its way into their system.
And then that little piece of data, it can connect you to other things, other patterns in your behavior, you see.
Ooh, okay. That's getting a little too real for me.
It is. And on top of that, they're collecting device details. We're not just talking your basic model and operating system here.
It gets, like, creepier, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The policy actually uses the phrase keystroke patterns. They're paying attention to how you type, the rhythm of your fingers on the keyboard.
Keystroke patterns. Okay, now they're just showing off. They can tell I'm a two-finger typer. That's impressive and creepy at the same time.
Yeah.
So they know what we copy and paste, how we type. But wait, there's more. They also mention collecting data from their advertising and business partners.
Right. And this is where things get really interesting. Because now we're not just talking about what you do on TikTok. We're talking about this whole massive web of data. Your information from different apps, websites, even like your offline purchases, it can all be connected back to your TikTok profile.
Hold on, back up. So they could know, for example, that I was like browsing for a new pair of running shoes online, and then bam, suddenly I'm seeing running shoe ads on TikTok.
Exactly. And while that might seem harmless, maybe even convenient sometimes, you have to think about how this interconnected web of data can be used.
Okay, so we've established that TikTok is gathering a lot of information. But the big question is, how are they actually using it? All right, so we know TikTok is basically building this like digital dossier on all of us. But how are they using all that data? Well, one of the most obvious ways is personalization, right?
Exactly. That's where your For You feed comes in, you know?
Yeah.
That never-ending scroll of TikToks that always seems to know what you want to watch.
It's kind of freaky sometimes how well they know me, but it's not magic, is it? It's like algorithms, right? Crunching all our data behind the scenes.
Precisely. And what's really interesting is that the policy actually uses the word inferences. Like, they're making educated guesses about you, who you are, what you like, even what you might be interested in, all based on the data they're collecting.
Okay, so like if I watch one video about, I don't know, baking sourdough bread,
Yeah.
suddenly my whole TikTok is sourdough recipe.
Exactly. And on the surface, that's pretty cool. I mean, you discover new creators, new ideas, maybe even a new hobby. But
But I'm guessing there's a downside to all this personalization.
there is. It can be great, those personalized recommendations, but they can also lead to these things called filter bubbles.
Filter bubbles.
Uh,
Okay, for those of us who don't speak fluent algorithm, what does that even mean?
Well, a filter bubble is basically like an online echo chamber, right? It's what happens when the algorithm is trying to show you more of what it thinks you like. So you end up only seeing one side of things, just one perspective.
So instead of seeing like a broad range of stuff, even if it's tailored to me, I'm just stuck in my own little world.
Exactly. It's like you only read one news source, or you only talk to people who already agree with you. You miss the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And it's not just a TikTok thing, by the way. It's something to watch out for on any platform that uses algorithms to like personalize what you see.
That's a really good point. Okay, so personalization is one big way our data is being used.
Yeah.
What else? The policy also mentions like safety and security, right?
Yeah, and that's really important for any online platform, really. I mean, TikTok, like any company, they have a responsibility to, moderate content, detect spam, protect their users from harmful stuff. So they use your data to try to combat hate speech, misinformation, harassment, you name it.
which, yeah, obviously super important. But I imagine it's a tough line to walk, right? Like, who decides what's appropriate and what crosses the line?
It's a total balancing act, and the policy actually says they're using this combination of, like, technology, including automated systems, and also human moderation.
So, like, real people are actually looking at our TikToks.
To some extent, yes. But think about it. There are so many videos being uploaded every minute. They have to rely on algorithms to flag anything that might be a problem.
And those algorithms, as smart as they are, can still make mistakes. I mean, they're created by people after all, right?
Exactly. And that's where it gets kind of tricky, because those algorithms, they can reflect the biases, conscious or not, of the people who created them. It's definitely a work in progress for everybody.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got personalization, we've got safety and security.
Mm-hmm.
What about this research and development they keep mentioning? What kind of research is TikTok even doing with all our data?
That's where things get kind of vague, to be honest. They say they analyze user behavior to, like, improve the platform, which, okay, pretty standard. But it also mentions developing their technology, things like, machine learning and algorithms.
So they could be using our data to make their algorithms even better at predicting our behavior, which then leads to even more personalized content, which then feeds back into the cycle.
You got it, this constant feedback loop. And while it's supposed to improve user experience, it does make you wonder, how much data is too much? How much control are we really giving up just for some entertainment?
It's a lot to think about, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So they're using our data for personalization, safety and security, research and development. But what about us? Do we have any say in all of this? Okay, we've been through a lot, haven't we? Learned how TikTok collects mountains of data on us and how they use it. For our personalized feeds to keep things kind of safe and, let's be honest, make their algorithms even smarter. It can feel kind of overwhelming. Like, do we even have a say in all of this? Do we have any control over our own data?
It's a fair question. And the good news is you're not totally powerless. The policy actually lays out some rights you have as a TikTok user.
Okay, so there is some hope. Tell me more.
Well, for one, you have the right to download your data.
Wait, really? What's even in there?
Think of it like a digital scrapbook of, well, your TikTok life. It's got your profile info, videos you've watched and liked, comments you've left, even messages you've sent and received.
Wow, that's a lot. I'm almost scared to look, honestly. But it's good to know we can, at least. What else can we do?
Well, the policy also says you can delete your information. So if you ever want to wipe the slate clean, you can ask them to remove your data from their system.
Okay, but like, the big question is it really gone once you delete it? Like, really, really gone?
That's where it gets a little fuzzy. I mean, TikTok says they delete your info when you ask, but this is the age of backups and copies, and the internet is a big place. It's hard to know for sure if every little trace is actually erased.
So even if you hit that delete button, there's a chance some, like, digital ghost of your data is still out there.
Yeah, it's possible. And it just shows how important it is to be careful about what you share online in the first place. Once it's out there, it's out there.
That is a sobering thought. Okay, so we can download our data, try to delete it. Anything else we can do to, like, have some control here?
For sure. You also have the right to object to how your data is being processed, the policy says. So if you're not cool with how TikTok's using your info for certain things, you can speak up.
So, like, if I don't want them using my data for targeted ads, I can tell them to back off.
Exactly. Now, whether they actually honor your request, that depends. It depends on their legal stuff and what they consider legitimate interests, whatever that means.
So not a guaranteed win, but still worth a shot.
Totally. It's about being proactive. You're not just passively scrolling. You actually have a voice. And look, you're not alone. Data protection laws are always changing, and those play a huge part in how these companies can and can't use our info.
So it's a combo of, like, taking action ourselves and hoping for some good old-fashioned regulation to keep things in check.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to find that balance between, like, convenience and control in a world that feels more and more driven by data every day.
That is a great way to put it. So as we wrap up this deep dive into TikTok's privacy policy, what's the key takeaway for our listeners today? What do you want them to remember?
I think the biggest thing is awareness. We just dipped our toes in the water here, but this is a deep, deep pool. Hopefully this sparked your curiosity, made you want to learn more about the digital world around us. Look at the privacy policies for the apps and websites you use. Really understand what they're collecting, how they're using it, and what choices you have. Knowledge is power, especially in the digital age.
Couldn't agree more. Like we always say, sometimes the most important information is hidden in plain sight. So next time you're about to hit agree without a second thought, remember this conversation. Your data, your choice. This has been The Deep Dive, taking you deeper into the topics that matter. Catch you next time.